Hello everyone, I hope you guys are doing great. Don't mind my voice because I suppose I kind of caught a cold, but anyways, it's not going to stop me from, you know, still posting videos because I love doing it. Even if I'm literally physically not here, anyways, I'm not going to go down that weird path of, I don't know. Anyways, what I kind of want to talk about today was there's this thing that I do unintentionally where whenever I meet someone new and, we start talking, I start to kind of connect every part of me or specific things that I do during that time that I'm kind of talking to that person. I would always link everything to them. And it's not like I've just realized that, it's more so that I've always kind of noticed that. I've noticed that ever since, talking to someone, and I think I mentioned this in a few videos before, I would listen to a song and that would, I would link that to the situation I was in. So I would link that to the person I was talking to. Also, my motivation would also be like on extreme highs because, like I said, I like the idea of something new coming into my life because I kind of got used to everything being plain or just kind of having this piece of, okay, I'm alone here. Because most of the time I'm also kind of delusional on the aspect that even though, you get to know people, you always have this like wish that please, please, please let this be the one and don't make them leave, or like don't let them be a weird person, or like don't let them turn into this weird person and like kind of ghost me. But specifically, I would link all of these things of myself, all of these hobbies that I did while talking to those people, a book that I read, a movie that I watched. I would link it to them. And after a while, it kind of gets boring because you only have so many things that you love and enjoy as a human being. And once you start kind of pushing that onto other people, not pushing that in the sense that I'm saying, I want you to read this book. It's more so I'm kind of projecting that onto them. Like, for example, I don't, like, for example, there is this book, let me think what book it was. Um, I'm thinking of a specific book, but I can't really think of any oh yeah, I think, what was um, not It Ends With Us, but it's something like, we both at the end or whatever, we both die at the end or whatever. Yeah. And so when I was reading that book, which was an amazing book, I think it was like one of the first books that kind of Book Talk recommended to me. I think it was like a few years back. Back then I was also kind of talking to a person. I think it was more platonically at the time. I would kind of, love that book on its own, but at the same time, because I was reading it while talking to this person, whenever I would mention that, it would always remind me of that same person. And when that person would eventually leave, or when things, wouldn't work out between me and this person, I wouldn't like that thing anymore. So I would kind of have a disgust, or I don't necessarily know what the term that I'm looking for currently, but I would have this sort of off-putting feeling when mentioning it to someone, or like, oh yeah, that book. It was as if it's like kind of a trigger. Like, it kind of put me back in the situation that I was in while reading that book. And it was always so weird because even though I enjoyed it at the time, so nothing will ever really take away from the fact that I enjoyed it. But still, for some reason, I would kind of distance myself from that instead of kind of facing it. Or instead of just consuming media and just loving the media for what it is, for example, a song, like a movie, a TV show, or whatever. But I would always kind of link it to that person, and it would take away so much from me. I would always have this feeling that I'm losing kind of parts of myself while opening myself up to others. And I think that was the first case. Another example of this situation was, I think the song was called Telephones by Vacation. I don't know what exactly the group is. I think it's called Vacations, Telephones, whatever. Anyways, that song I used to always, it would always remind me of a situation that I was in. Back then it was always also someone that I talked to. So, okay, of course, when you are dealing with things, you would find things that would help you, or like that would ease the pain that you're going through. So that song specifically would help me deal with the absence of that person. But at the same time, while listening to that song, I was also kind of in a loop, because I knew for a fact that when I put on that song, I would go on to be in a really depressive episode. But at the same time, because I got used to that, because I kind of had to deal with it, because like I knew that even like, for me, it was mostly the difference between kind of escaping that pain or escaping the thing that you're going through. I was more so dealing with it, I wouldn't like actually listen to music to kind of ignore whatever is going on. I would more so listen to the song to kind of deal with it, to kind of experience the pain that I was going through, or experience the thing that I am, going through. I don't know if I have anything. Okay, I'm good, I think. Anything. Anyways, so like I would kind of, deal with that just the way it is, instead of kind of escaping escaping with the media. And that was always, it comes with its positive sides and negative sides. And the positive sides were you were actually dealing with it. I wasn't ignoring the problem, nor was I acting as if nothing has happened, But I would also actually just, deal with the pain. But then after a while, as human beings, we kind of, we get bored of songs, we get bored of media. And you would just put it on the side. But for me, it wasn't only because I got bored of it, because once I kind of listen to a song, it really takes a lot for me to get over it, or like it takes a lot for me to actually not like that song or not listen to that song anymore. Like I get, for example, Suffocation by Crystal Cast is like one of my literally me anthems. Like I listen to it 24/7. It's one of my all-time favorite songs, if not my favorite song. And that's one song that I could never possibly ever connect or what is it called? Not connect, like kind of project it onto others, like it's not like I'm listening to Suffocation and I'm thinking of all of these situations. When listening to Suffocation, I would literally think of everything that I have ever experienced in my life, because I literally listen to it when I'm crying, when I'm happy, when I'm sad. I mean, crying and sad comes with the same thing. When I'm depressed, when I'm, having some euphoric episodes that come along with BPD. That's like one of the things. So what I specifically mean with like, instead of getting bored of it, for me it was mostly, okay, we gotta move on, so I just put the song behind. But that's like one song that I lose, because for me, not only listening to music kind of defines me. It's not like it defines me literally, because of course we are ourselves at the end of the day, but it kind of becomes a part of my routine. Once I get to know a new album and I like the album, I'll be in a very different aspect or part of my life when listening to that album, where like I would relate it to, of course, a specific thing that I'm going through. Like for example, Let It Happen by Tame Impala. It's one of those songs where when I found the album Currents, but specifically Let It Happen, that song on there, it really kind of gave me this like feeling of, we just gotta let it happen. Just, things will happen, things will move. That's just how life goes. But for that song, Telephones, I just had to put it behind, because I knew that even though like every time I would listen to it, it would actually make me lose myself. Like I would actually cry so hard, it would only remind me of that person. And the reason that I'm saying this is because I still struggle with that to this day. There are so many songs that you could put on, there are so many topics that you could bring to the table, or you want to talk about, and the first thing that I would think about is the person that I relate that song, that topic to. And instead of kind of because like I said, I would face my problems by listening to music and just experiencing the music, instead of looking for other songs and kind of putting that song behind, because I knew that it wasn't going to make me feel any better by listening to it. I would just simply listen to it and experience what I am going through, or just like kind of deal with everything that I'm going through. And yeah, no, that song really had an impact on me. Like, I would always think of that same person, and that was like, at the time, it's such a beautiful song still to this day. But that's like one of those songs that, like, okay, it reminds me of that person, so I have to put it behind. And that's like a part of me that kind of get lost. Like, those 3 years or 2 years that I was talking to that person that I linked that song to, that would only remind me of that person. And it feels as if those 2 years are kind of gone. Like, I do remember them, but I don't really want to think of them, because the way that I would be able to like think of them, or like they would kind of come to mind again, is when listening to that song, or when listening to Telephone. And it's like as if the person that I was back then while listening to that song, all the positive and the bad things about myself back then when listening to that song would be gone. Because of course, things that you are going through, like bad things that you are experiencing, you would want them to not appear again. You would want them to kind of, you want to get over things. But at the same time, all bad things have positive things, all things that you've experienced have either had a positive impact on, like, probably had a positive and a negative impact on you. Like, the positive side, for example, from meeting someone and them ghosting you, I think it's really hard to kind of get the positive out of it. But it's more so it kind of reminds, like, you kind of learn to not fully rely on others, their input, or kind of latch yourself onto them too quickly, when you kind of keep in mind, like, when somebody ghosts you, of course, it's a really bad thing, you get hurt. It's like, most of the time, for me specifically, I have severe fear of abandonment. I think it also comes along with BPD. When you kind of latch yourself onto someone, wait, let me think for a sec what I was saying, because I'm kind of getting over, I don't know. Anyways, so, so it kind of, you kind of learn to deal with possibly someone leaving, or you kind of learn to not latch yourself onto someone too quickly, which is a positive thing, because that makes, like, that kind of reminds you that at the end of the day, you yourself are the most important person in your life, and you have to remind yourself that, because you cannot really depend on others too much. But those things that I learned from those bad experiences tend to kind of go away. Like, I tend to forget about them, because I had, listened to that song, and I know it's really far-fetched, but I had listened to that song, and that song was a part of me back then, and me not listening to that song anymore, because it kind of brings everything back, because not even not listening to that song, just not being able to listen to that song, because it kind of is a traumatic experience, because, like, for a fact that everything will come along when listening to that song, or talking about this topic, or talking about a movie, like that specific movie. You probably know whatever movie you have in mind, it's probably that one, or a book, it's kind of a traumatic event. So that was always for me the most difficult part, because it was as if all the things that I had learned from, or all the things that I should have learned from, are disappearing, are gone. It's as if that time of me, like the time that being, like, when I was there and experiencing those things, it's as if it's not a part of me anymore, and only the bad things and only the things that I had to force myself to deal with are gone. It's as if I never really put the effort. It's as if I never, learned from it, because I knew for a fact that I learned from it, otherwise I wouldn't be here. If I gave up on learning from it, if I gave up on actually bettering myself, I wouldn't be here. But at the same time, everything kind of going away, and me, latching certain events and latching certain things to a, like, inanimate object or a song or whatever, I kind of put it in boxes and, like, shove it in my closet, It's as if I'm folding it and just putting it in my closet. And whenever I open the closet and kind of want to enter and see, you know, what do I want to wear today, I always have that one thing sticking out, knowing that I'm never going to touch it, but it's always going to be there because I know that it's there. And I know whatever, that, like, it's as if opening the box of Pandora or whatever. It's like, you know, like opening it, like, it's a beautiful song from the outside. From the outside, it seems really beautiful, but at the same time, I'm sorry, I'm sick. But at the same time, you know that all the bad things that can come along with it will always also come along with it. So when listening to that song, you're not only going to enjoy listening to that song, but at the same time, you're also going to have to experience all the bad things that come along with it. And that's a really difficult thing for me to deal with. It's like as if I have to remove those things. It's as if I put parts of me in those objects, in those songs, in those whatever, in those pieces of media, just so like I just have to put it in there and just kind of, you know, shove it into the closet, because I knew for a fact that I dealt with it, but it's as if I haven't really dealt with it because I had to put it in the closet. You know what I mean? So that always kind of is frustrating, because it's as if that you're losing a part of you every time that you, like, it's like as if I'm losing a part of me every time that I mention that topic that I'm obsessed with while talking to that person, and suddenly I'm not obsessed with it anymore. I'm someone who has a lot of hobbies. I'm someone who does a lot of things. I just experience, like, I love doing everything and anything. I love talking. I love learning. I love learning. I love learning about new things. I love everything that has to do with anything, really. That's just how I am. I love history. So at the end of the day, I know for a fact that if this song is going to be another, like what is it called? Like, it's going to make me re-experience a traumatic event. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know what's happening. I'm sick, y'all. So I know for a fact that listening, like, you know, even if listening to that song could bring negative thoughts, negative impacts on me, or like just like, you know what I mean. I'm kind of falling into repetition here, but I know for a fact that for every song that reminds me of that situation, there is thousands of other songs that I could also put on and might enjoy as much as that song. You know, I'm sorry, y'all, and I know that, you know, like, if there, I mean, probably if that was the case for Suffocation by Crystal Castles, I don't even know what I would do, because there's no song that could ever do what that song does to me, you know. But I'm just saying, like, there will always be different songs, so I will be okay, you know. I'm not going to literally disappear just because I latched a part of me onto something, or I had to kind of put thus interest that I had mentioned to a person that I was obsessed with at the time away just because it would be triggering. There's plenty of other things that I could do in the meantime, but it's always sad because it's as if I had to, like, I had to put it away. Like, I know for a fact that I could listen to it, you know, and the experience probably wouldn't be that bad, you know, but at the same time, you don't really want to put yourself back in that situation. But on the other hand, I would also much rather have it just be a part of me instead of kind of lose that part of me. So, like, I remember when I was in this talking stage, I think in 2023, October, for some reason, October is always the worst month that I could ever go through. When I would, you know, think of, or whatever, like, I was going through in October, it was as if that a part of thing that I like doing, which was like laughing, like making jokes, or like just like, not like making jokes like a stand-up comedian. It's more so like situational humor. Like, I don't know. I mean, it's I don't know if it's like kind of weird to say that, but it doesn't matter. Like, it was as if that, like, those comebacks, or the sarcastic part of me is like gone, because the person that I was obsessed with at the time liked my sarcastic humor, and because that sarcastic part of me would always remind me of them, or like would always remind me of what they told me about that to me, I had to kind of put it away, because I don't want a part of me to still be in me while having, you know, I don't want that part that I had given out to someone and they kind of, enjoyed that and took it with them. But they also, I don't want to be reminded of that, I don't want to remember that the person that I was obsessed with and I loved but actually used me to the point that they just did whatever they wanted and I would just let it happen. I don't want to be reminded of that, At the same time, I would love to accept parts of me that might be gone, or I could discover them. But it also feels kind of weird. Like, it's as if I could never rediscover them because those parts feel as if they're gone. Because I had to kind of latch that part of me, because I unintentionally latched that part of me onto them. It's as if I can't really exist with myself without having something or someone to coexist with me. And that's kind of a really difficult thing for me, is that instead of just letting things be the way they are, or appreciating things for the thing they are and appreciating things for the way they are, I tend to give it so much more meaning than they actually deserve, mostly with people. I would give it so much effort. I would put so much effort, because at the same time I know for a fact that loving someone is never a waste, and I'm not gonna say that loving someone is ever a waste. But it does feel that way sometimes. It does feel as if those efforts that I put into that person, it took a lot of energy away from me, but not only energy, it also took parts of me. It's as if it took big parts of me. It took things away from me that I don't have anymore. It's like a part of my extroverted character is as if it's gone, as if it got replaced with insecurity because I got used to having something that I could latch myself onto and directly connecting that to another person. So that was something really difficult for me to deal with. It's really difficult, to be honest. Why is it that I continue to kind of have all these little trinkets? Even in my house, I have so many small things, in my room specifically, so many things that remind me of other people, remind me of situations that I was in. But I used to love them at some point, so just throwing them out wouldn't be an option for me. I would never want that, I could never throw them away. Even if it's gifts or that I've ever gotten, the meaning that it once was to me will always have it, a song that meant so much to me at a certain point in my life will still have that same amount of worth to it. I would still love it as much as I loved it at that time. But at the same time, I don't really see the worth in it anymore, because it's as if it's gotten away from me, If I, that song Telephones by Vacations, whatever, I know for a fact it's a good song, and I love the song, and I would still listen to it, if all of the bad things that would come along with it weren't with it, they weren't existing in the same thing. I still appreciate it, and I would still have it in my playlist, but I would still skip it, because I knew that it's kind of like opening a box of Pandora, because I know that all of these bad things are going to come along with it, and I'm only going to notice the bad experiences that I linked that song to, and not the part of my healing, and not the part where I actually healed from that situation and learned from a situation. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. What I kind of talked about already. It's that I have to kind of learn to let things be the way they are, or just give kind of appreciating things for what they once were, instead of wanting so I have to learn to appreciate things for what they once were, but also try and not let the appreciation that I once had for that to only exist in a bad way, because that song Telephones, because it has such a meaning to it, it's kind of a bad meaning for me, because it reminds me of bad situations. But I also have to learn, or what I'm going to try to do is also remind myself that the worth and the meaning that I gave to that song also has a lot of positive things, and also has a lot of things that I learned from and will forever be grateful for. But it's always difficult because, like I said, I automatically have positive things, and I would directly link it to a person or to a situation that I was going through, and for some reason, or eventually, that situation would be a bad situation. So instead of appreciating or giving it its worth for what it is just at its own, or for what it meant to me at the time, the only thing that it reminds me of is that person, instead of how emotionally it made me feel. You know, I think it's weird because I could also just love the song for how emotional it made me, instead of necessarily my brain kind of taking it in a way that, yeah, remember how that person made you feel where you were listening to that song, or like how you were feeling when you started listening to that song. And that's just the thing. I just have to learn to detach situations or my hobbies from other people, so they don't disappear when that person goes. It's as if a part of me goes away. Like, it's as if a part of me left when they left, you know? Because I had put in so much effort, and I had shared so many things that I love doing as a person, and a lot of parts of me, like hobbies and like music and whatever, I should also kind of just let it happen, and like, not let it happen. I'm not going to always say that. I mean, I'm going to say that, just let it happen, but I'm just going to let it have its own meaning without necessarily me having to reconnect it or like connect it with another person or with another situation. I just want to be able to kind of leave things the way they are, instead of directly latching myself or latching certain situations that I went through to some things that I enjoy, because it kind of takes the joy out of it and takes the fun out of it. So I just want to be able to appreciate media that I once appreciated, instead of having to connect that, or instead of always having to remind myself that that was once a coping mechanism from when I was dealing with the situation or dealing with the absence of that person. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'm sorry for my voice maybe throughout. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you guys have an amazing day, night, week, wherever, anywhere, all at once. And Mustapha out.